When we talk about Ajax, Ontario, and industrial contributions to Canada and her allies, we tend to focus on Defence Industries Limited, or DIL. After all, it was the largest shell-filling plant in the entire British Empire during World War II and played a key role in defeating the Axis. But what if I told you there was another institution here in Ajax that had just as impactful of a role in shaping Canadian history? That this institution drew Ajax into our national aerospace industry's greatest successes and tragedies. And that this institution is the reason Ajax is currently helping to reshape the balance of alliance structures in the Western world today. Join me as we embark on the fascinating history of Ajax, Ontario, and Dowdy Equipment of Canada. Starting from Town Hall, we only have to travel a couple of blocks to our first destination. This area, just south of the 401, used to be the heart of the old Defence Industries Limited complex. Few traces of the original plant are left today, but some of the railroad paths remain. The most visible remnant of the old complex is the steam plant, which still provides power to local businesses. Take note of this street name. Right now, this building doesn't look like much, but the street name we passed actually gives us a critical hint. You see, this U-Haul building used to be the North Plant for Dowdy Equipment of Canada. In 1949, Dowdy Canada moved from Montreal to Ajax. Now, it actually took me quite a lot of time to track down where the North Plant actually used to be, because there is very little documentation about it online. I actually had to cross-reference an old map of Ajax with Google Earth and then a photograph from the 1950s. As you can see, these two buildings perfectly match up with this photograph, and these other ones match when you take into consideration an aerial view and additions made later on. The reason for Dowdy coming to Ajax was to work on its new, lucrative contract with Avro Canada to design and manufacture the landing gear for the CF-100 Canuck Interceptor. The Canuck went on to be the greatest success story of the Canadian aerospace industry, at least within the defense sector. 692 Canucks would be operated by the Royal Canadian Air Force and the subsequent Air Command. The CF-100s served in the defense of our nation for over 30 years, and every single aircraft was built in Canada. And to go with those nearly 700 aircraft, every piece of landing gear was assembled right here in Ajax. But if you're familiar with Canadian aviation history, you'll know that the folks over at Avro Canada were cooking up something else during the 1950s, the Avro Aero. The CF-105 Avro Aero needs no introduction. A highly advanced supersonic interceptor, the Aero was purpose-built for downing Soviet nuclear bombers flying over the Arctic Circle to attack North America. All of the prototype aircraft were designed and manufactured in Canada, including the landing gear, manufactured right here in Ajax in this very building. But not just this building, because this was only the North Plant for Dowdy Equipment of Canada. So let's take a look at the South Plant. Unfortunately, the Avro Aero never saw adoption by the Royal Canadian Air Force, and the program was cancelled. All of the prototypes were destroyed to keep Soviet spies from stealing technology secrets. With the Aero, Avro Canada died as well. Unable to find a foreign customer for the Aero, Avro was dissolved in 1962. This had a devastating impact on the Canadian aerospace industry. The cancellation of the Aero put 25,000 skilled workers out of employment. Many, unable to find jobs in Canada in the wake of Avro's dissolution, moved to the UK and US, where they worked to design the Concorde and put a man on the moon, respectively. The decision to cancel the Aero still remains controversial to this day. Some argue that the cancellation was a betrayal of Canadian industry, whereas others see it as a necessary evil in the light of the project having gone severely over budget. I want to save my opinions for a future video dedicated specifically to the Aero, but regardless of whether the cancellation was right or wrong, it undoubtedly had a severe impact on the Canadian aerospace industry for decades to come. Canada would never again design and produce its own fighter aircraft.
Unlike the South Plant, the North Plant is still being used for its original function, just under a new name. Through a series of corporate shenanigans spanning nearly 3 decades, Dowdy Equipment of Canada was renamed to Dowdy Aerospace Landing Gear Toronto, and then Messier Dowdy. Its parent company then merged with another in 2005 to become Safran, or Safran. Throughout that time, Dowdy Canada and its iterations have consistently produced complicated equipment for national and international buyers. The name may have changed, but the building and the core team have remained the same. The South Plant remains mostly unchanged from what it looked like several decades ago, as you can see from these photographs, although it is certainly a big departure from how it started. Some interesting pieces of architecture is this cream-colored tower, which was, and maybe still is, the drop test tower. The front facade also remains largely unchanged.
Now, as during the 1950s, this exact location in Ajax plays a major role on the global stage. Currently manufactured at this Safran plant are components for Boeing's 787 and V-22 Osprey aircraft, and Bombardier's Challenger and Global series of business jets. That last one is critical. The Bombardier Global 6000 is the base aircraft for the Swedish Saab Global Eye, a highly advanced airborne early warning and control system currently being procured all around the world.
NATO recently selected the Global Eye as their next official AWACS platform, signaling a shift away from reliance on American-produced platforms like the E-3 Sentry and soon-to-come E-7 Wedgetail. The Canadian government has also entered negotiations into procuring the Global Eye for the Royal Canadian Air Force, which, if all goes according to plan, would mark a huge capability leap for the defense of our nation. But of course, none of this would be possible without components made right here behind me. So, there you have it. The story of how an Ajax-based enterprise was involved in the greatest success and the greatest tragedy of Canadian aerospace industry, and how that same enterprise sits poised to take advantage of a new Swedish-Canadian aerospace achievement. I tried to be as thorough as I could in the making of this video, but if I left anything out, or if I made any mistakes, please feel free to add and correct in the comments down below. Also, if you have any suggestions on topics I could cover next, or suggestions on how to improve, I would love to read your ideas. Finally, I just want to point out that none of the research I did would have been possible without the doughtyheritage.org.uk website or these books. For a full list of sources and an annotated script with in-text citations, please see the description. Thank you for watching.